Delta, form up.
Star Wars is a franchise that has long been built on epic set pieces, legendary bloodlines, and the magical mysteries surrounding the ideas of the Force. But beneath the kind of flashy sci-fi exterior, George Lucas really built a thing that at its heart is about the balance of good and evil, light and dark, heroes and villains. And it's no secret that many of the heroes we have observed across the movies, TV shows, comics, books, and video games have been of the Jedi variety. I mean, it's kind of the main attraction, right? We expect our Star Wars characters to swing around a lightsaber a little bit, push rocks with the Force, and just be front and center in the highest stakes encounters currently happening within the galaxy. However, we need not forget that there are absolutely others. Other heroes that across the Star Wars timeline have stood up to tyranny and evil in their very own ways. Some are smugglers, some are politicians, generals, droids, common people, and some are soldiers. Star Wars Republic Commando is one of the most beloved and cherished video games ever set in a galaxy far, far away, and it is for very good reason. It follows the story of a single elite group of clone commandos fighting for the Grand Army of the Republic during the main events of the Clone Wars. And while the Jedi are off arguing with each other and falling in love with elected officials, these 4 members of Delta Squad carry out high-priority, super classified missions to ease the burden of this war on the Republic. Boss, Fixer, Scorch, and Sev are simply put some of the coolest characters that this franchise has ever seen, and I would say, honestly, some of the most underrated video game heroes to ever hit the home screen. Now, in this video series, we take long looks at some of gaming's most legendary good guys, right? But today, I want to focus in on not one, but the collective unit that is Delta Squad. A shining example on how to perfectly execute ensemble video game heroism. Because hey, even though the game they star in is an FPS and you only directly control one of those troopers, the design of the game systems and narrative really makes you feel like you and your brothers are a single lethal arm of the Republic. Assassinating enemy leaders, infiltrating droid factory operations, and sabotaging separatist slaving rings, these clones are extremely effective and efficient. But the story involved here is also far more than just good soldiers following orders, baby. Because each member of Delta has an extremely unique personality and skill set that makes this crew lovable and memorable. I'm also just straight up a huge fan of the story context of this game. The Clone Wars is an amazing setting, and in this video we are going to cover it all. So I gotta know, man, what is the origin of this Delta Squad? How does their story tie in with the main events of Star Wars? What are those differing personalities? How do they mesh together? And what is the ultimate fate of these video game heroes? Well, as usual, I want to take a little moment here to thank all of my incredible patrons for supporting this channel away from YouTube. You guys are the best. I am Ghost, your host, as always, and without further ado, let's form up, secure this position, and learn all there is to know about the beloved Delta Squad. So, to understand anything about these guys, I think we first should cover something much more basic, which is just the clone trooper. Now, across all of existing Star Wars media, there are very few in-universe events that have kind of shaped the principal characters and narratives quite like the Clone Wars. A massive galactic-scale conflict occurring right after Star Wars Episode 2 and concluding at the end of Episode 3. So, on one side, you have the CIS, or Confederacy of Independent Systems, and on the other is the Galactic Republic. But things are, well, far from straightforward here, and I think you very likely already know the deal, dude. Sheev Palpatine, a senator within the Republic, and eventually its Supreme Chancellor, was in secret the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, and this fella pretty much waged this entire war by and with himself, acting as the ultimate Star Wars puppet master. Directly controlling the Separatists through his Sith apprentice Dooku over FaceTime, and then keeping up this kind of grandfatherly appearance and influencing the politics of the Republic. Now, his entire scheme was a lifelong effort to bring down the Jedi, and a huge part of his plan to do so involves the clones. And that includes our boys of Delta Squad, but more on that much later on. So these troopers, made in the genetic image of infamous bounty hunter Jango Fett, acted as the principal fighting force for the Republic during the wars. They were led by Jedi generals against the separatist droids, with the droid General Grievous and Dooku acting as their opposition. And this war lasted about 4 years, with the game Republic Commandos events taking place at the very beginning, middle, and end. But the amount of death and destruction that this thing caused is honestly insane. If you feel so inclined, I highly recommend the entire Clone Wars animated series. That is some of the best Star Wars ever made, hands down, and really wonderfully explores the highs and lows of everything, but includes a ton of the trooper perspective, which I think is great. But listen, man, I love Star Wars, and I could rant about Palpatine and all the intricacies of this thing forever, but I want to try to stay focused on what matters here today, which is the clones themselves. So the culture within the clone ranks is really interesting stuff. Having all been made of the same DNA, they're obviously very, very similar to one another in both looks, voice, and ability. But the cloning process intentionally allowed for some serious diversification of personality quirks. I mean, some clones are way better at certain things than others, and this allowed for a lot of organic, healthy competition between the clones, while also keeping a really natural palette of like opinion and strategy. I mean, you wouldn't want your force walking out there like the damn redcoats. I mean, that's not a recipe for success, if you know what I'm saying. And these clones all considered each other legitimately brothers, a big family, and there's a camaraderie that is just not present amongst their droid counterparts. It's also hard to illustrate really how huge this army was. I mean, between 3 and 4 million active troopers at any given time across the galaxy, with more being bred and trained in the cloning facilities of Kamino every single day during the war. But all of them were designed to age rapidly, making them fully grown and combat ready in under 10 years. But I think we need to address an unfortunate elephant in the room here, and it's the issue of Star Wars Legends versus Star Wars canon. I know, it's stupid, but when Disney bought Lucasfilm in 2012, a few years later they retconned a massive amount of video game, book, and comic content in this effort to streamline Star Wars and make a more kind of Disney, cohesive, family-friendly main timeline for fans to understand. And hey, I'm gonna be honest, I kinda get it. I mean, there was some wild, hard science fiction stuff in the extended universe, but they also axed a ton of the most incredible lore in the process. Because guess what? Republic Commando and all of its corresponding information and novels have all been designated as legends. Now, this is only important to note, I think, because it completely splits the descriptions and storytelling elements of some of these things literally down the middle into two rather different camps. For this video, I am going to stick mostly to the original intentions of these characters and how it relates directly to the video game. So war is of course a multifaceted thing, and in a conflict this massive, stretching across all these different star systems, there are sure to be some missions that are simply too delicate and difficult for the average trooper to handle, while also being a bit beneath the more grand scale stuff the Jedi generals are up to. Assassination, infiltration, stealth, sabotage, things like that. And this is of course where the Commando program comes in. Assembled into units of 4, specially designed clone prospects were developed to have a much higher capacity for independent thinking and creativity than the average clone, while still remaining completely loyal to the overall goals of the Republic. These commandos' minds were genetically tailored to be able to solve complex problems on the spot, stay calm under extreme pressure, and execute commands with a fierce accuracy. So within Legends, largely from the Republic Commando books, these soldiers were then trained by Mandalorian sergeants that Jango Fett himself hired and then brought to Kamino, being shown the ropes of the Mandalorian way of war, which is just so cool and so appropriate. I mean, the tactics, the efficiency, the communication, and the sheer lethality to turn these commandos into the finest soldiers serving the Republic, period. And all throughout those training years, they would spend every hour of every day together, losing any sense of selfishness or individuality, for better or for worse. An awesome character in the books named Cal Skirata says this to some of his recruits.
Think of yourselves as a hand. Each of you is a finger, and without the others you're useless. Alone, a finger can't grasp or control or form a fist. You are nothing on your own, and everything together.
I mean, the narrative element at play here is something found all across military culture, as well as SWAT teams. The core philosophy is all about the person next to you, not you. The training and conditioning of soldiers like this, they truly become something far greater than the sum of its parts. It's beyond teamwork, it's beyond it being a job or a war, but something really resembling brotherhood, a sense of innate sacrifice and selflessness for an assumed greater good. I also just think it is so cool that when the dev team was making Republic Commando, a bunch of the guys studied with a SWAT team trainer in their office. It really is the core tenet of the entire thing, and man, do you feel it when you're playing the game. So also within Legends, the Clone Commandos unit number being 4 was representative of the local culture on the planet of Kamino. Now, this is amazing because the Kaminoans always hunted in groups that size, so they wanted to project that structure onto those commandos. How dare Disney say this isn't real? So once trained and ready for battle, every single commando was fitted with a special Katarn-class suit of armor, named after the predatory beast on the planet of Kashyyyk. And this armor was designed to offer way more protection than what the normal troopers got. It was expensive to make and very fancy, with shield deflectors for each trooper and ports for direct Bacta injection to heal the commandos if they got hurt. Additionally, to streamline the weapons kit here, commandos were given something called the DC-17M system. Its base was like this high-powered blaster rifle, but it could also be reconfigured with sniper attachments and a grenade launcher add-on. Throw in a sidearm and vibro wrist blades and just martial hand-to-hand ability, each commando was truly a one-man army, a multifaceted killing machine that had a deep toolbox when in the field. So thousands upon thousands of commandos were bred and trained just like this, making up a multitude of different 4-man units, but amongst the most famous and most successful is our boys of Delta Squad, over the course of the war becoming legitimate Republic legends, feared by the opposition and revered by their Jedi leadership. So again, within Legends, Delta Squad was trained directly from a very young age by a Mandalorian man named Waylon Vao, a teacher who was seen by many as probably the harshest of all the instructors at the commando school. But that harsh approach led Delta to always place at or near the top in countless evaluations during their instruction. From flash training as children to live fire drills, this unit was always destined for great things. So now let's get to the good stuff, man. Who are these troopers? So Delta was led by RC-1138, also known as Delta 38, or more commonly by his nickname, Boss. And 38's armor was decorated with bright orange paint so his homies could spot him in the fray of battle. He was an extremely skilled and well-rounded soldier, a surprisingly calm and reserved guy. Boss was chosen as the squad leader because he carried that kind of quiet confidence, preferring to lead by example than ever run his mouth too much. He very comfortably issued orders in super high-pressure situations without a second thought, and had a deep love for his brothers, with a natural inclination to push them, but also protect them. And hey, Boss is actually the character we get to play as in Republic Commando. Voiced by the legendary Tamora Morrison, it feels like the perfect player stand-in.
Deltas, if you can read me, I'm headed for the rendezvous point. Deltas, give me an explosive solution. I'm on it. Let's form up. Forming up, boss.
A little lower in personality than the others, sure, but it allows for some of that player projection and really informs the way the game is going to work with the command system, and just a fantastic character for us to embody. Second in command is RC-1140, or Delta 40, or his nickname, Fixer. Adorned in green stripes, Fixer was a commando that did absolutely everything by the book. An expert with technology and slicing, Fixer preferred to always call his brothers by their numerical titles and left nicknames for after the missions were done. Also a rather quiet guy, you really only hear Fixer pipe up in-game to kind of silence his more playful brothers or issue secondary orders.
Go! Engage hostiles! Sir, you realize this is against recommended protocols?
What's that?
It's a droid dispenser, 07. Next time, read the briefing.
A pretty gruff commando for sure, but one that adds an extremely important streak of firm professionalism to Delta Squad. And hey, his love for his squad mates is absolutely far higher than he outwardly shows. Fixer is voiced by actor Andrew Shakin, who also appeared in other video games and actually has a full-on career as like a singer and beatboxer under the name Kid Beyond. So there's some Star Wars trivia for you, man. And next up is RC-1262, or Delta 62, or Scorch. Absolutely my favorite member of the team, Scorch has possibly the coolest armor as well, with large sections caked in black with bright yellow accents. Now, 62's specialty is twofold. demolitions, and jokes. A commando with an extremely light-hearted personality, Scorch is just as capable in combat as his brothers, but he brings that very welcome sense of humor to the table.
That blew up real good. Delta Squad, clear that promenade. Promenade, sir?
Shut it, 6-2.
Need some cover, squad.
Moving to position.
Wait, red, green, or red, green, red?
And he's supposed to be the demolition expert.
That'll make them think twice. Maybe even 3 times.
If we're all clones, why am I the only one with a sense of humor?
And honestly, I think in movies, TV shows, games, whatever, any setting that is pretty dark and gritty like Republic Commando, you need to have this kind of character to kind of cut the tension. Because not only does Scorch kind of humanize the entirety of Delta, but he gives you a character that is a situational barometer. If Scorch has time to wisecrack and talk a little shit, you kind of feel like things are okay, I'm playing a video game, you know? But when he goes radio silent or gets serious or upset, you feel the whole tone shift. It's just an amazing narrative tool and even more amazing character. Scorch is voiced by Raphael Sbarge, a pretty accomplished actor in his own right, but if you're a Star Wars fan, you probably know his voice from the best video game ever made, KOTOR 1, where he plays the legendary Carth Onasi. So the final member of Delta Squad is, by my estimation, probably the most beloved by fans overall, RC-1207, Delta 07 or Sev. Now this is the most lethal in combat amongst all 4 Delta Commandos for sure. A true marksman sniper and efficient soldier, Sev's armor was literally covered in either red paint or blood. I don't think anyone was sure which one it was, with this iconic handprint kind of smeared over the front of his helmet. This dude is just a straight up, stone cold killer bro, with the graveliest voice you've maybe ever heard in a video game.
One more for the slag heap. 3-8. Contact command and ask them when I get to kill something. I gotta get out of here.
Sev is all about loyalty. Loyalty not only to Delta, but to the Republic and all of his clone brothers far and wide. He shares a particularly special friendship with Scorch, as the two are in a constant state of banter.
Rule 17. Always make sure they're dead.
I think Sev might have an anger problem.
One is always talking smack to the other, and like the background noise of these two is literally half of the experience of playing Republic Commando, in my opinion. He is voiced by actor Jonathan David Cook, who also lent his talents to a few characters in the original Star Wars Battlefront 2. This is your squad. That is their origin. Just one unit of commandos amongst many, trained for highly technical and dangerous missions during these clone wars, relying heavily on their clone officer advisor 02425 for mission briefings. And as the game begins and you take the reins of Delta 3-8, the clone wars are just getting started on Geonosis. However, before that even, right after you click new game, you get this incredible intro that I've been kind of showing clips of throughout so far, putting you in first-person perspective as Boss Baby. I mean, Baby Boss.
We expect great things from you. We have been born into dangerous times. A sharp mind can be the key to survival. But as often as not, it will be your inherent physical traits that win the day. And in this regard, you will be superior to your more common brethren. For you are a commando, an elite unit, something truly special. Your weapons, your armor, and most importantly, your brothers. Join Delta Squad. Delta 4-0, your foundation, a pure and uncomplicated soldier. 6-2, the heart and soul of your team. And 07, the fiercest hunter of all your brothers. You are each a piece of a whole person, and the Republic will call you to defend and give your lives if need be.
It's fabulous, dude. I love it. I could restart this game a million times just to see this scene. So the actual story of Delta Squad as we experience it in-game is split into 3 different little campaigns, with each campaign being made up of a handful of named missions. So you have Geonosis, the Prosecutor, and Kashyyyk. But the first campaign is taking place literally on day 0. I mean, that big gladiatorial battle we see at the end of episode 2 is probably happening like right over that ridge right there. Each member of Delta Squad is arriving on planet separately in their very own gunship, primed to meet up down on the surface. And after some light PTSD you experience with this clone getting absolutely tossed in front of you, 3-8 is briefed on their mission.
Here are your orders. Your primary target is the Geonosian leader, Sunfac. Delta lead, it is absolutely vital that Sunfac not escape.
Shortly thereafter, you navigate through some wreckage and meet up with your brothers one by one. It's a great slow introduction to the main gameplay systems at work here, because you, as boss, are able to assign your 3 commandos to certain tasks at any given time. You can issue squad-wide commands like form up, go secure that area over there, go attack mode, or when you see these kind of outlines of a commando, you can send one of your boys to that position to snipe, blow a door open, heal, throw grenades, etc. and so on. And this right here is the bread and butter, dude. I mean, at times it almost feels like an RTS FPS, because you are boss, of course, but you have so much control over the battlefield, making Delta Squad feel like one character with 4 different limbs. It's just incredible game design that is so beautifully supported by the narrative and the spectacular dialogue kind of gluing these guys together. I'm obsessed, dude. Why do you think I'm making this video? But I will say, the overall story of Republic Commando is, it's okay. I mean, what you're doing in the macro, for me, is always less impactful than just the experience of fighting enemies with the squad mates. And to be honest, at times the overall mission starts to float away from me a little bit when I'm playing the game. It's just always more about the action and the direct physical heroism of these characters. But I think it's still enough to get invested and pay enough attention, especially if you are a Star Wars fan. So the first mission for Delta Squad is straightforward enough. Eliminate Sunfac, a Geonosian lieutenant who is the executioner that actually sentences Anakin and Padme to death in the movie. Okay, we hate him, let's waste no time and eliminate that target. However, things get a little interesting when Sunfac escapes.
Sunfac is making a run for the door. Stop him!
He's made it through.
And then after fighting through some droids, Sev here brings down the fleeing Sunfac with a single sniper shot.
Woo-hoo! Yeah! I love that smell!
All I smell is burnt Geonosian.
3-8, my scanners show an explosion.
That's affirmative.
Ooh, man. He cold as hell, I'm telling you, man. But right after this, you get word of another commando unit that failed in their mission.
Heading no time to celebrate, Deltas. As you already know, 3-6's squad has been incapacitated. Their mission was to disable the droid factory in this sector. Your squad has been retasked for this purpose. Proceed to the elevator.
Okay, Delta has to pick up the slack and head to this droid factory. After doing so and eventually blowing the place sky high, Delta continues on to a nearby landed Separatist core ship, and the mission here is crazy big, dude. Acquire the launch codes for the entire Separatist fleet. I mean, damn, day 1 of the war, that would be a pretty big deal. But a really interesting part of these missions is that Delta actually splits up, and damn, you feel so much weaker alone. It's only as each commando joins back up with you one by one that you realize how lethal you can be as a unit. And I think overall, the Geonosis Campaign is a really good introduction to not only the way the gameplay in Republic Commando works, but the Clone Wars in general. I mean, day 1 here is absolutely insane, and we get a hint of that hearing about this other commando unit that didn't make it. I mean, in some extended universe stuff, it is stated that nearly 5,000 or more commandos perished at the Battle of Geonosis, which is just wild, and it really highlights how special Delta Squad is. The second campaign occurs after a pretty massive time skip. Over 1 year later, we are now on day 367 of the war, and you get this really interesting blurb up front about how in demand Delta Squad has become. Proof that that first campaign you just played and the heroic actions of your characters made a tangible impact. I also love the suggestion that Delta has done a million other things during this time skip. I mean, we hop in at the beginning, middle, and end of the overall war, but these dudes are working every single day. So I find the second campaign here to be the strongest by far. It centers around a Republic ship called the Prosecutor, and funny enough, this ship actually acted as the home base for Delta at the very beginning of the war. But it has been missing in action for some time, but recently randomly appeared floating unresponsive in Separatist space. So, of course, Delta is sent in to investigate, acquire some flight records, and secure this ship for the Republic. And man, I mean, at the beginning of this campaign, it legitimately feels like a horror game. The squad splits up yet again to cover more ground, and it becomes very clear that the Prosecutor is a proper ghost ship. I mean, no one is around. There are some signs of a struggle, and a few clones even, kind of standing around without explanation. But then you start to lose comms with your brothers and have your visor vision disrupted by these horribly annoying droids. It's tense, it's immersive, and it feels like a real test for Delta. I mean, this is not your average wartime mission at all.
There you are, sir. We're close enough to monitor each other's status.
What's your position, 7?
I'm in the starboard data core. Should be a viewport near you.
Ah, there you are.
Give me a minute and I'll join you. Just have to slice this core for the sensor logs. That did it.
But just as you establish contact with Sev, you witness him through a window getting attacked and taken away by Trandoshan slavers.
Sev, can you read me? Come in, Sev. Blast! 40-6-2, come in. Be on the lookout for armed hostiles. I think we've got Trandoshans. They've taken down 7. Delta Squad, come in.
You're 3-40. Keep an eye out. Need you at the ground point.
And this ends up being the main theme of this campaign. So the Prosecutor was assaulted and taken over by Trandoshan mercenaries. And Trandoshans, if you don't remember, are like the lizardy looking bruz like Bosk, the famous bounty hunter from the movies. And well, shocker, these stinkers are in cahoots with the Separatists, and they are looking to acquire this vessel for their own nefarious stuff. And man, I mean, you got booby traps, big Hulk-ass Trandoshans, your squad mates getting captured and put in jail cells. This campaign really has it all. And I think it really showcases the adaptability that these commandos need to be able to flex in the field. So after finally destroying the Trandoshan dropship on board and fighting off some clankas, the mission is complete, the ship is secure, and the Republic has regained a super valuable asset. And I mean, zooming out for a second, the fact that just 4 clone commandos entered this massive ship, kind of got their asses beat, and then uncovered this big Trandoshan separatist connection as they took the ship back is absolutely insane to me. I mean, just within like Star Wars lore and expected power of characters, the heroism here is off the charts. And we see in the little post-campaign image, Jedi Master Mace Windu meeting with Delta Squad and congratulating them on a job well done. So before we get to the third and final campaign, I would like to address another pretty big thing here, which is the Republic Commando novel series written by Karen Travis. So these are, as I mentioned earlier, just like the game, now considered completely non-canon, but hey, there's some pretty cool stuff in this series. It mainly follows another squad entirely though, known as Omega. Niner, Phi, Atten, and Darman are all very cool characters in their own right, but Delta features heavily in the series as well. Now, if I was to cover everything in here, we would be here for hours, and I'm gonna be straight up with you, I just don't have very much passion for these stories. The books feel very much supplemental when it comes to Delta, and in truth, it's because the game is what these characters were written and invented for, nothing else. That being said, it would be crazy for me not to at least touch on a few cool things that happen in these novels, so obviously, spoiler warning. So shortly after the Prosecutor saga, there's actually events depicted, with Delta receiving a Red Zero signal, or a code sent by other commandos requesting immediate extraction and rescue. The signal was sent by Omega Squad, and of course Delta responds, and after this kind of wild skirmish in space with the Separatists attacking, the rescue is successful, and you really feel how Delta are kind of like these Republic superheroes. But soon after, the two squads actually work together in some pretty serious counter-terrorism measures down on the surface of Coruscant, which is extremely cool, dude. There's really fun narratives of the two squads just not really getting along. I mean, Sev and some of the other guys just fight, but they're pros and they still get the job done. Then later on, Delta is sent to Mygito to do some more commando stuff, calling in strikes, messing with Separatists before the main clone invasion of that world. But there's a really interesting sub-story here about how when the task is done, instead of pulling out, they stick around to help out their old training master, Waylon Val, with some kind of personal missions. And this arc is really about Val and his past before he was a sergeant. I mean, honestly, if you find any of this stuff interesting or intriguing, I do recommend you read the books. They're decent. It's just, to be honest, not what this video is all about. This is a video game channel, and I want to get back to that stuff. So let's do it. So after uncovering this big Trandoshan link with the slavers, the Republic was asking the very important question.
What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?
Whoa, hold your horses, Mr. Mundi. Because before the droids even arrive, those Trandoshan goobers from the second campaign end up down on the Wookiee homeworld, enslaving the locals and using separatist weaponry. So this campaign takes us all the way to day 785 of the war, and your advisor has the brief.
Welcome to Kashyyyk. Thanks to the data you found on that assault ship, the Republic and the Wookiees are on very good terms. They've asked us to help find their leader, a Wookiee named Tarful. Tarful spent years fighting Trandoshan slavers. 2 days ago, one of his patrols was overwhelmed. The Wookiees assumed he was lost. However, we recently cracked a Trandoshan code indicating Tarful was captured. Be advised, this is a covert insertion. He is still alive and being held in a slave camp here on Kashyyyk. At least you have the element of surprise this time. Good luck.
So in the process of locating and freeing this Tarful, something crazy is discovered. Intel that General Grievous, the leader of the entire droid army, is not only on planet, but at your current position.
Orders. You are to verify that Grievous is indeed on Kashyyyk. Highest priority. Can you see him near that ship? Find a window or viewport. We need verification.
We've got a visual on a landing pad.
Positive ID on General Grievous.
What's he? Damn!
We've been spotted. Get down there. Move!
Got an enemy droid visual here.
Galaxy was that?
And I mean, damn, there he is. But quickly, off he goes, escaping in his ship, leaving some of his really cool droid guards with like the lightning sticks behind for you to fight. And honestly, this is probably for the best, because Grievous is a dangerous dude who has killed multiple Jedi, and I think he would probably wipe the floor with Delta Squad, let's be honest. So from here, Delta do some utterly vital work to destroy separatist outposts that have been established, disrupt supply lines, and just cripple their presence on Kashyyyk. But all the while, you're rescuing more Wookiees, helping Tarful survive, and fighting tooth and nail against waves of clankers and Trandoshans. I do think overall, the final campaign is pretty amazing too, even if it does drag at times. You really feel how this entire war has weighed on Delta Squad, and I mean, they feel closer to each other than ever, inseparable really. Also, something big is just kind of percolating on Kashyyyk. You can feel it. So the final act of the campaign is finally taking shape, and sitting in the sky above Kashyyyk is this massive separatist ship funneling mechanical troops down to the surface.
The Wookiee defense systems are now online and available to destroy the separatist cruiser. In the upper levels of each of the 4 bays, you'll find a Wookiee dual missile turret. Only with the combined firepower of all 4 turrets do we have the slightest chance of taking down this juggernaut.
And this is where, for the final time, Delta has to split up. Each member of the team ends up taking control of a heavy AA turret in this kind of ring format. So first to split off is Sev, then Fixer, and finally, Scorch, before you go at it alone for a while and Boss takes his seat in the final turret. The coordinated attack is then a complete success and the ship comes down in pieces.
Nothing like a little precision teamwork, Deltas.
And that was nothing like a little precision teamwork.
But just as the boys meet back up with 3-8, disaster strikes Delta Squad.
Boss, I've got a problem here.
Sev, where are you?
Multiple hostiles.
Lost his signal, boss.
We'll find it again, damn it. Squad, regroup. We're going after Sev.
Negative 3-8. New orders came through from the Jedi generals. Clear the area. Evac now.
I don't care if they came from Master Yoda himself.
As a matter of fact, they did, soldier. Now get your squad out of there.
Blast our orders! 40?
He's right, boss. We gotta evac.
Sir, we have to go back.
Delta Lead, get your men under control. 1 commando is not worth risking an entire operation.
1 commando? He's talking about my pod brother.
Hold on, advisor. What do you mean, an entire operation?
I can't believe
Your team was the advance force for a full-scale Republic invasion. I had strict orders not to tell you. It was your reconnaissance, your intel that verified the operation. And now the invasion has begun.
Republic assault ship on Vector 6.
Hostiles to starboard, ready guns. Firing solution in 2 seconds.
Watch it, Bravo Leader, they're on your tail.
Twin starfighters, incoming at 0-27. Look out!
Boss, look! It's the invasion force!
Taking the city was only the beginning.
I've never seen so many ships before.
Yes, sir. Yes, I'll patch you through right away. Listen up, Deltas.
All Republic forces, establish forward command in Kashyyyk.
Is that really who I think it is?
Rendezvous with Delta Squad.
Sorry, Deltas. Looks like it's back to the action. You have your orders.
Delta Squad, lock and load.
Oh my god. I mean, you can feel the pain in Scorch in that moment, and the kind of just quiet from Fixer. They are forced to leave their brother behind. But as this little post-mission page says, it's a firm reminder of the harsh reality of the Republic Commando. Duty before brotherhood. And here it is, full-scale invasion. The Battle of Kashyyyk, and thus the end of the Clone Wars, is underway. Also, man, I love seeing Master Yoda here addressing the gang. It's an amazing finale to an amazing game, and a stark contrast of themes. Loss, duty, glory, and above all else, war. Now, initially, this was it. A short story about sacrifice and honor that ended right here on this dropship. However, that wasn't always the plan. You see, there was absolutely a second game slated to take place right after this called Star Wars Imperial Commando. Now, this was a project by the very same studio, but it was actually cancelled before Republic Commando even released. And it was very possibly going to follow some clone Commando characters like Delta Squad or others as Order 66 took place and the Galactic Empire was formed by Darth Sidious, with the sequel then following a unit essentially under Sith command hunting down rebels and rogue Jedi. But I want to make it very clear, dude, that almost zero development was ever done on this project past some early design sketches. And there's even wild things that have come out over the years about this sequel instead being called Rebel Commando, which could have followed Sev as he's like left behind in Kashyyyk and all this stuff. I mean, it's interesting, but ultimately, these games do not exist. Republic Commando is a standalone experience, and really one of the titles across all of video game history that fans have been clamoring for a reboot of for years. But that does not mean there isn't other information out there regarding Delta Squad's fate. I mean, those Republic Commando books definitely threw some very interesting ideas around. But this is unfortunately also a complete dead end as far as closure for our heroes. Because the series' final two books are Order 66 and Imperial Commando, but after that, the book series was cancelled and left unfinished. However, within the Order 66 book, there is far more exploration of the character's feelings and emotions following the loss of Sev, especially Scorch, as he kind of transforms from this jester commando into a truly tragic hero. And of course, Order 66 itself is a massive deal here if we are talking about clones and what ultimately happens to these characters. Well, at the beginning of this video, I said that Palpatine's whole plot to bring down the Jedi was very much related to the troopers, and this is of course it. Order 66 was the ultimate trump card that Sidious held. As the Chancellor of the Republic, he could essentially act as Commander-in-Chief, and this order was given to all clones at the very end of the wars to immediately turn on and kill all Jedi that they were serving, no questions asked. This order branded the Jedi traitors of the Republic and enemies of a brand new galactic empire. However, within canon, Order 66 is rather different from how it used to be, because within canon now, every clone had this like inhibitor chip implanted within their brain. So when the Order 66 was given, there was no room for free will. Hearing the very words triggered a zombie-like response in the clones, and none would be able to question said command. But no, in Legends, those chips did not exist. So the original version of these characters within Delta Squad, as we know them, had no such chips. So all that being said, one has to wonder if these heroes of the Republic would have followed such a crazy order. I mean, within like the books and stuff, a lot of people say no, they did not follow it, but maybe some people say they would follow it. And in the final novel by Travis, Imperial Commando, we do see that the surviving members of Delta become those Jedi hunters. They work directly for Darth Vader and thus the Sith. But I'm gonna be honest, man.
We don't care. Let me tell you. We don't care.
This shit is such a mess, and I want to double and triple down on all this unfinished junk being a complete and utter waste of time when it comes to Delta Squad. In my opinion, these characters were created for the game Republic Commando, and in that way, they have succeeded in their mission. Would I like to have a more concrete ending for Boss Scorch and Fixer? I mean, I guess, but we don't have that. Would I like to know what happened to Sev? Honestly, no, I'm good. He was a soldier. He fought with his brothers and didn't make it through a very dangerous mission. I'm not a fan who needs every little thing explained and shown and developed to its final period. Honestly, I kinda love that this game ended up being a one-off and no one really knows what happened to Delta after this. I mean, God forbid we experience some mystery in Star Wars again. And at this point, if these questions are answered, you just know it's gonna be coming down some corporate daisy chain of modern Disney using these characters for some other thing. Probably regarding like Ahsoka, or a character that had nothing to do with them originally. I mean, this game and this portrayal of Delta is all I need, baby. It's amazing. It's one of the coolest Star Wars games ever and a true cult classic for these very reasons. Oh man, I get so fired up about this stuff. And it is worth noting though that the characters themselves have been recognized in that new canon if you care about that, appearing briefly as a cameo in an episode of the Clone Wars, and then this kind of strange lifeless version of Scorch appearing in the Bad Batch show, which is amazing and it's still coming out, so there could be more on tap. Who knows? I think generally it can be very difficult to talk about the lasting legacy of video game characters that are protagonists. Because when you are controlling a character, every single person who plays that game is going to have a slightly different experience, right? But I really find Delta Squad this way to be completely different, because the ensemble nature of the game almost makes it feel like you aren't even controlling Delta 3-8, but just getting the privilege of seeing through his eyes during these events, if that makes sense. It's also, for 2005, a very cinematic game, and the way you get to know these characters for an experience that only runs between maybe 6 to 8 hours, I mean, it's very intimate. You grow to love these squad mates. And just within Star Wars at large, this perspective, without a single lightsaber in sight, just the grit and the danger and the struggle of these men, it's something that we fans should really, really treasure. It's so unique, and obviously we haven't seen anything like this in video game form since. Boss, Fixer, Scorch, and Sev have a special place in video game history. A wonderful example on how to make multiple characters with differing personalities almost completely equally share the spotlight. And it's interesting too, because I feel in so many ways this being a Star Wars property, these being clones, and knowing that all those big Star Wars events are potentially happening like right off screen, it very much sells this entire experience and these characters. And in this way, I would say confidently this is Star Wars at its best. Not to say this is like the single best Star Wars game period, but anything that allows us to meet and embody and learn about characters that are minor like these, that make the galaxy feel like this wider, wilder place than just the Skywalker family tree, this is what we need so badly. So ultimately, I do think the legacy of Delta Squad is unique and unmatched. The game being this kind of abandoned property, the characters falling halfway out of canon, Sev's fate being left unknown, these things only add to their cult status and cements them further in the hearts of every single person who has played Republic Commando. And I think I can speak for all of us watching this video when I say Delta Squad will never, ever be forgotten. Thank you everyone for watching and listening to the very end. I know, I got a little fired up there. I love Star Wars, man, and there's so much inconsistency and quality, and there's just too much of it now, and I know it could be so much better. It's also kind of wild that this is my first proper Star Wars character video, especially given KOTOR is my favorite game ever made. So hey, maybe 2024 is the year I start to get to some of these dudes. I want to again thank all of my amazing patrons and really anyone who has ever clicked on a video of mine. Please let me know down below other heroes, villains, and NPCs you want to see videos on. Well, that's it for today, my friends. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you all very, very soon. Until next time, peace.